Hello and welcome to another episode of A Brief History. Today's episode, VidCon. Ready, set, go. Missoula, Montana, 2009. Having spent the past couple of years making YouTube videos back and forth with his older brother John, video blogger Hank Green has fallen completely in love with all things YouTube. However, outside of his time on YouTube, Hank was also very interested in things like environmental technology, Harry Potter, and businessy industry stuff that I'm not smart enough to possibly understand. And as different as these three things may be, they all had one common connection, which was that each of them had their own dedicated conferences. Annual events where large groups of like-minded people came together to celebrate, discuss, and learn more about the things they all love. Hank himself had been to several conventions and conferences in his time: Harry Potter conventions, anime conventions, business conferences, and more. And it didn't take long for him to notice that YouTube, despite being a bustling metropolis of new, passionate communities, had no real convention of its own. And to be fair, by this point, YouTube was only around 4 years old. It was still kind of an underground thing at this point, at least compared to where it is today. But the idea wasn't really that far-fetched. Around this time, YouTubers and fans would often attend what were known as YouTube gatherings, which were basically giant meetups. Fans came to meet their favorite YouTubers, and YouTubers came to meet fans and hang out with other YouTubers. And that was about it. A bunch of YouTubers and fans would come together in a public area and just meet up. There was no expo hall, there was no concert stage, there were no panels. It was just a big gathering. In fact, that very year in 2009, some of the biggest and most well-remembered YouTube gatherings of their time were held, these being the original Summer in the City and the 789 YouTube gathering in New York. So when it came to the concept of a YouTube convention, the idea made a lot of sense. So much so that Hank kinda knew that someone was gonna do it eventually, and that it was something that could easily be done pretty badly. He felt it was very important for the world's first YouTube convention to be started by someone who had a good understanding of what YouTube was. And turns out, that person was him, as well as his brother and a few friends. First things first, Hank reached out to his friend Melissa Anelli, who had experience running cons. And after only a basic pitch, she was already sending Hank available venues. So I think it's safe to say that she was interested. On top of this, the con required guests as well as community interest. So Hank reached out to several of his YouTube friends to see what they thought of the idea and if they would be down to attend. Fast forward several months and this project now had a location, a potential venue, a list of guests, and of course a name: VidCon. And thus, on December 9th, 2009, Hank Green uploaded a video to the Vlogbrothers YouTube channel where he officially announced the first ever VidCon with a sock puppet. One of the most important events in all of YouTube history was announced with a gravelly voiced sock puppet. It was just a different time. Anyway, taking place at the Hyatt Regency Century Plaza in Los Angeles in July of 2010, VidCon was a smash hit. The con featured two tracks, one for those primarily interested in the YouTube community, and another for those more interested in the industry side of things. Guests included Rhett and Link, Tessa Violet, Zay Frank, Mitchell Davis, Philip DeFranco, Shmo Yoho, Charlie McDonald, Shane Dawson, Smosh, and so many more. Attendance clocked in at around 1,400 people, and there was even a ball pit, which in retrospect was a pink eye outbreak just waiting to happen, but it ended up fine. So all in all, VidCon was a rousing success. Tons of YouTubers made videos of and about the conference, helping spread the word even further, and needless to say, Hank and his team were already preparing to do it again. And since then, VidCon has become an annual event that has only gotten bigger and better with each passing year. Around the time of VidCon's third annual in 2012, it was decided to move the conference from the Hyatt in LA into the massive Anaheim Convention Center near Disneyland. This change, along with the growing mainstream popularity of YouTube itself, caused attendance numbers to quintuple from the original 1,400 all the way to 7,000. And things only got crazier from there. 2014's VidCon boasted around 18,000 attendees, and wow, was that a lot to handle. So come the 6th annual VidCon in 2015, a number of changes were made to how the conference worked. Meet and greet logistics were tweaked, ticket numbers were cut off at a certain point so things wouldn't get too crowded, and the con now encompassed not just a portion of the Anaheim Convention Center, but the entire freaking place. And that was due to one of the biggest changes to VidCon in 2015, the introduction of the creator track, where the community track was mostly for fans and the industry track was more intended for the dedicated professionals. The creator track aimed to offer a happy medium for those who wanted to learn how to make YouTube their career or to further the career that they already had. It offered more learning experiences than the community track, but didn't quite reach the super in-depth analytical heights of the industry track. And in order to to differentiate these 3 tracks, VidCon split itself into 3 segments. The first floor being the community track where the expo hall could be found, the second floor being the creator track which was full of panels and workshops, and finally the third floor was for the industry track. And here you could find all sorts of keynote addresses, speeches, and more. And all that doesn't even include the concert arena, Disney Day, or the outdoor area that boasted multiple concert stages. So VidCon had pretty much gotten as big as it could possibly get, and the question then became, well, what next? The VidCon team had pretty much figured out how to run their annual Anaheim event, and they were already branching out a bit with a new line of conferences known as NerdCon, but they were still looking for a real new challenge. And thus, at VidCon 2016, it was announced that for the first time ever, the conference would be expanding with 2 new legs, VidCon Europe and VidCon Australia. The first of which took place in Amsterdam in April of 2017, with the latter set to take place in Melbourne later this year in September. And on top of all of this, VidCon US is still set to keep growing in Anaheim. Over the years, the con has gone from a gathering of YouTubers and fans in one hotel to a massive event that fills an entire convention center. The guest list went from a handful of YouTube's top creators at the time to over 500 supported creators from all different subsets of YouTube content. In fact, at this point, despite the competition that may have popped up since, VidCon is pretty much the quintessential YouTube convention. Being invited to VidCon is now considered a sort of badge of honor in the YouTube community. Many YouTubers take to VidCon to announce their big upcoming projects, and the CEO of YouTube itself, Susan Wojcicki, has even began to make appearances at the conference so that she can address the YouTube community in person. VidCon could have gone horribly wrong. When it began, it was a huge risk that could have lost a lot of money, especially if it was handled improperly. The first YouTube convention could have easily been a giant money-sucking exploitation of what, at the time, was seeming like a new fad. But instead, it was handled with care, aiming to celebrate this revolutionary era of new online video content and facilitate growth for its community. And of course, as YouTube exploded in popularity, so too did VidCon. But even to this day, the event has remained, at its core, a hub for those who love online video. And as we approach its 8th annual event, I think it's safe to say that VidCon is and will always be a source of incredible inspiration for YouTubers all over the world. Thanks for watching, guys. DFTBA. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching my VidCon brief history. I hope you liked it. I adore VidCon, so I was super excited to cover it. And I was very honored that Hank Green was down to help out. His involvement really helped out with the research for this episode, and I can't thank him enough. So if you want, you can check out some of Hank's videos here. Or if you're just in the mood for some more of my videos, you can check out the last episode of A Brief History all about Hannah Hart. And I think that's about it, so I'll say it again. Thanks for watching, and DFTBA.